Today, we're focusing on the New Year's tradition. Why is it celebrated on January 1st? Turns out you can thank the Romans for that. Here's Matt Gregory.
This is the one where Julius Caesar decides when the year starts. And we answer the question, why is January 1st the beginning of the new year? For that, we've got to go all the way back to the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar became dictator for life in the 40s. 40 BC. We're in a whole different time code now. As dictator for life, Caesar put in numerous reforms. Most were aimed at helping the Roman Empire and the Roman government to run more smoothly. So, what needed to run more smoothly, you might ask? How about time? The Roman calendar was completely messed up. At the time, it followed a lunar calendar, you know, a moon calendar. And because of that, the Roman seasons didn't exactly line up. You had winter in July, spring and summer in November, and it changed from year to year. Not to mention, politicians would add days or even weeks to years just to lengthen their terms of office. Could you imagine that? What a loophole! How about a never-ending presidency? It's good to know that even in Roman times, political corruption was alive and well. So Julius Caesar sat down with an astronomer named Sosigenes. And Sosigenes suggested that Caesar and the Romans follow a solar calendar, you know, the sun, like the Egyptians had done centuries before. It was more accurate and easier to follow, quite frankly. In order to start a new calendar, the Romans had to pick a different month to start the year at, because up to that point, March was the beginning of the year. Beware the Ides of March. So in the year 47 BC, December 31st became the end of the year. And we opened up 46 BC on the new Julian calendar beginning on January 1st. Wait, but why January? Well, the common thought is that January is named after the Greek god Janus.
I mean, these people out there talking about martial law, it's like it's something that we've never done. Martial law has been instituted 64 times.
The 2024 numerals arrived in Times Square yesterday. Check them out here. They stand at 7 feet tall. The numbers will officially light up the night sky when that iconic crystal ball drops at midnight on January 1st.
We've now passed 7 billion on this planet. When I was born, it was a little over 2. Food prices rising, oil is ending. When our resources end in 20 years, given everything that we know of our species, do you really think we're going to just share?
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
So your answer to that is some kind of genocide?
No, it is not. It is not genocide. Our answer to this is Janus.
We've got to stabilize the population. When I was born, there were
so what's wrong with the population? I mean,
with too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff.
Janus consists of a protein and an amino acid. Independently of each other, they're harmless. But when they're brought together in the subject, they act as a genetic trigger that prevents chromosomal division. The cell targeted can no longer replicate itself and is thereby rendered useless. The change is permanent and hereditary.
And which cells are targeted?
Those that control fertility, Becky.
But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
The recent UN meeting in Cairo is appropriately focused on one of these key issues, population growth. But the controversies which have erupted at the conference illustrate the problem of coming to grips with issues that are deeply divisive and which have a profound moral dimension. The United Nations can and should play an essential role in helping the world find a satisfactory way of stabilizing world population and stimulating economic development in a manner that is sensitive to religious and moral considerations.
The purpose of Janus is to sterilize. The purpose of Janus is to sterilize the entire human race.
As my plastic surgeon always said, if you gotta go, go with a smile.
Janus is the Greek god of new beginning. Janus has two faces, one that looks to the past and one that eyes the future.
Newski's Farm in the western part of the state just welcomed a new and unique member to their family. Oh, it's a two-headed goat. He was born on Sunday. He's one of about 1,000 goats born on the farm this year, but the only one with two heads. The Newski family really wants to keep him as a pet, and they're hoping he will survive. There's a 50-50 chance he'll make it.
Janus is a deity of Roman mythology, the son of Apollo. According to some versions, Janus was born in Thessalian region in Greece, but left for the region of Lazio, located in current Italy. There he was welcomed by the mythical king Camese, with whom he divided the power. Janus edified several cities, and, according to some Roman myths, Janus welcomed the god Saturn after his banishment from Greece by the hands of Jupiter. Saturn would be the equivalent of the Titan Cronus of Greek mythology, and, as a form of gratitude for being welcomed, the old god began the golden era of mankind. During this period, men started to live in a world of extreme happiness and abundance. Cronus also blessed Janus, giving him the power to know the past and the future. Janus was the deity accountable for teaching men how to use boats, and also introduced them to coins. After the end of his life among the men, Janus became a deity. As a god, he would be the deity responsible for protecting doors and gates. This god was depicted with two faces and had a key in his hands. When he opens a door, the god unleashes a new cycle, and this can be a new cycle of harvest or the passage from childhood to adult life. He is also associated with the beginning and the end of wars. During the war between the Romans and the Sabines, the god stopped the Sabines from attacking the Roman armies, creating a source of boiling water, preventing the advance of the Sabines. The Romans eventually repaid their protection by building several temples in his honor. The main one was closed during peaceful periods, and only in times of war people could find it open. Since he was a god connected to transitions and new cycles, the Romans baptized the name of the first month of the year in honor of the god Janus. With that, January is the time when people try to accomplish their New Year's resolution and start a new cycle of prosperity with the blessing of the god Janus.
Janus. This deity is most distinguished by having two faces, thus often referred to as Janus Geminis. Sometimes both faces are bearded older men, but often he is depicted as having one bearded older face, looking to the past, and a clean-shaven face of youth looking toward the future. In some depictions, he even has one face of a man and the other of a woman, signifying the unity and duality of male and female essences in each of us. In some depictions, he even contains four heads, looking in each cardinal direction. He was known as the god of beginnings and transitions, and thus all manner of doorways, passages, portals, entrances, gateways, and the elements of change, movement, and time. It was essential to honor Janus at the start of every endeavor, from calendar dates to spring plantings, military actions, marriages, and each new dawn. He was the first god to be invoked before all others to help during all manner of rituals, rites, and prayers. He was the god of liminal spaces, guardian of transitions from youth to adulthood, barbarity to civilization, countryside to city.
Peace and blessing, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again to another episode. And today, what we're going to touch on is the topic of January the 1st is not the new year. It's the worship of the Roman pagan god Janus. So without further ado, let's get the message started. Origins of the month names. January, named for the Roman god Janus, protector of gates and doorways. Janus is depicted with two faces, one looking into the past, the other into the future. So basically, the month of January was named after a satanic god, the Roman god called Janus. And as a matter of fact, every single month was also named after a Roman god or a satanic god. For example, the month of February was named after the god Fabriaca, which is the festival of purification. And I talked about this in one of my videos called Valentine's Day is a pagan holiday. I talked about this, about the month of February is the festival of purification and love. And January the 1st is the commemoration of this Roman god Janus, and a lot of people don't know this. And he says that he's a protector of gate and doorways. So now we're going to find more information about this Roman god Janus. Who is Janus? It seems like the ancient Romans had a god or a goddess for everything. Poseidon, god of the sea. Venus, goddess of love and beauty. And Apollo, god of the sun. Just to name a few. Other well-known Roman gods include Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Mars, Neptune, Arcus, Ceres, Juno, Luna Diana, and Vesta. And then there is Janus, a lesser known god but arguably one of the most important. In Roman mythology, Janus was the god of the doors, gate, and transitions. Janus represented the middle ground between both concrete and abstract dualities such as life, death, beginning, end, youth, adulthood, rural, urban, war, peace, barbarism, civilization. Janus was known as the initiator of human life, transformations between stages of life, and shift from one historical era to another. Ancient Romans believed Janus ruled over life events such as weddings, birth, deaths. It oversaw seasonal events such as plantings, harvest, seasonal changes, and the new year. You see, Janus is a satanic god or a Roman pagan god, and the month of January, just like I said earlier, was named after him. It was named after this god, and a lot of people don't know this. And he says it represented the middle ground between concrete and abstract, the beginning and the end. So the first of January is the commemoration of this satanic holiday. It has nothing to do with the new year. And when you take a look at the nature itself, it tells you that this cannot be the new year. This is not the beginning of life. This is the worship of this satanic god right here. The winter is not the beginning of year because everything is dead. It doesn't symbolize a new life. This is a Roman pagan gods, a festival that people are doing. You need to know that these come from the world, and anything that comes from the world, you have to be careful. You have to deal with that with skepticism, because you have to remember the world was given into the hands of Satan, and Satan, the prophecy in the Bible says that Satan deceived the whole world, and not just one of the ways that Satan deceived the world. That's one of the tools that Satan has used to be deceptive throughout the entire world. January was named after a satanic god. February was named after a satanic god, and the rest of the month of the year. So now, to the true followers of the Most High, and to the Israelites out there who are coming back in the last days, to their true identity, now we're going to go into the Bible and find out exactly what is the first month of the year and when is actually the new year, according to the scriptures and according to the Most High. Watch. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Boom. So this is the beginning of month. And this month shall be unto you, Israelite, the first month of the year. So now let's find out which month that is referring to. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Lord. Let me read it again. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Most High. So now we are getting to know and to determine when is actually the first month of the year of the Hebrews, of the Most High. And now he's talking about the Passover. And we know that the Passover falls between the month of March and April, which the Christian call the Easter Sunday. And the correct translation is actually Passover. It's not Easter Sunday. For you Christians out there, Easter Sunday is a satanic holiday, is another pagan holiday. And we're going to touch on that in a future video. So the first month is during the spring season, because the Passover is held around that time. Now the first month is the beginning of the spring season. So the new year of the Most High is actually during the spring season, because when you take a look at the nature, it tells you that this is the beginning of new life, because it's not cold, it's not hot, and this is the most beautiful season of the year, and it symbolizes the new year. It symbolizes the beginning of a new life, because you can see the old flowers, the old branches of the trees has been fade away, and now the new flowers and new branches are coming out, and this actually symbolizes the new life. This actually makes sense, as opposed to the first to the first day of January, which is really cold. This is the end of everything, but the spring is the beginning of everything, and this is actually the first month, the new year of the Israelite, of the Most High. So now let's find out how to determine the first month, because you cannot refer, if you want to follow the Most High, the holiday of the Most High, you cannot refer to the name of those pagan gods, such as January, February, April, and the other pagans names, because the name of this month was actually named after the pagan holidays. So the Most High doesn't know anything like this. He doesn't know January, he doesn't know February, he doesn't know March. So now let's find out how to determine a new month in the scriptures. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreased in her perfection. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. You see, now we're getting to determine the new month. So he says the month is called after a name. Whose names? The month. The month is called after the moon. This is context. It's actually referring to the moon. Her name is actually referring to the name of the moon. So the month is called after the moon. So that means every time a new moon comes out is a new month in Israel back then. So that's how they were determining their new month. So every time a new moon comes out is a new month. Let me say it again. Every time a new moon comes out is a new month for the Israelites, not the Roman calendar. The Roman calendar has nothing to do with the Most High. This is a satanic calendar because he was named after a pagan god. Every single one of them. The 12 months are named after the name of the satanic god. And even the name of the days of the week are named after the god. Just like the Sunday. Sunday is the worship of the sun. Saturday is the worship of the god Saturn. You need to understand that. So the Most High is not dealing with those days at all. He's dealing with the new month, the new moon. So every time a new moon comes out is a new month. So now let's find out how the new month of the Hebrew or the Israelites of the Most High is called. Let's find out. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord your God. For in the month of Abib the Lord your God brought you forth out of the land of Egypt by night. So the first month that falls during the period of spring, during the spring season, is called the month of Abib. This is the month of the Most High. This is the new year of the Most High. So during the spring, or during that time when the new month comes out, is the new year, and is the beginning of the new month of the year to the Israelite. That's what the Most High says. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king set him down to eat meat. You see, the new moon, that was the beginning of a new month. Every time a new moon comes in, it was the holiday. The holiday was supposed to be held in Israel. There's no such thing as Monday, Saturday, and Sunday in the scriptures. The Most High doesn't deal with that. So if you want to determine any of these holidays in the scriptures, then you have to take a look at the new month. When the new month comes out, that's when you're going to start to count it from the new month, from that day. Same thing with the Sabbath. You're going to count 7 days from the new month to keep the Sabbath. 14th day of the new of the first month is the Passover during the spring season.
This tablet is taken from the ruins of the Library of Ashburnipal, which was destroyed in 612 BC. Despite being less famous than the Library of Alexandria, the Library of Ashburnipal is both older and it's given us more, as around 10,000 ancient tablets have been recovered from its remains. This particular tablet is of importance to us, as it refers to the festival of Akitu, one of the earliest New Year festivals that we know of. First mentioned in the city of in the Pharaoh period around the middle of the 3rd millennium, the festival eventually spread out, being adopted by surrounding cities like Nippur, Adab and Uruk, although it was celebrated slightly differently in each location as the locals put an emphasis on their own gods. It was celebrated twice a year, first on the autumn and then on the spring equinoxes, which marked the beginning of a new 6-month equinox year. The most important part of the celebrations were the procession out of, and eventually back into, the city by the city's chief deity, Nana, the moon in the case of This was a celebration of the triumph of Nana, who, especially in the autumn equinox, would triumph over the sun, Utu, spending longer in the sky. In Babylon, it was accompanied by the reading of the Enuma Elis to the god Marduk, who was believed to spend the 11-day festival battling the forces of chaos so that the world could be renewed again. There, the king would ritually give up the symbols of his power and humble himself before Marduk in the Essigil. The priest would then give him back his royal insignia. It is possible that a mock king was also crowned, who would eventually be ritually sacrificed before the end of the festival, so he could assist Marduk in his fight against the forces of chaos, although this has been heavily disputed by scholars. The Akitu New Year festivals were celebrated from the 3rd to the 1st millennium BC, and the Roman Emperor Elagabalus, who had once been head priest to the sun god Elagabal, briefly encouraged the celebration of a ceremony largely agreed to have been inspired by the Akitu celebrations. Despite its age, the Akitu festival is not the oldest New Year festival we have evidence of. The ancient Egyptians celebrated a number of New Year's festivals over their long period of dominance, partially because traditions changed as time went on, and partially because of their use of 3 separate calendars. There was the Wepet Renpet, the first day of the civil calendar, the Nehebkau festival, which celebrated the rebirth of Osiris, the Peret Septet, which signified the rebirth of Sirius as it reappeared in the night sky after an absence of 70 days, and the Sed or Hebsed festival, which occurred only after the pharaoh had reigned for 30 years, and it was then carried out once every 3 years after that. Of these, the oldest is the Sed festival, which is believed to have been pre-dynastic, taking it back before the 4th millennium and into the mists of prehistory. The earliest certain evidence for it is from the tomb of the 1st dynasty pharaoh Den in Abydos, where Den is depicted crossing the field, an important part of the Sed festival, where the pharaoh had to dance or run across a field in the direction of each of the 4 winds, first wearing the crown of northern Egypt and then wearing the crown of southern Egypt. Doing so would symbolically dedicate Egypt to the gods and assert the pharaoh's authority over the land. But the most important part of the ceremony was the sitting of the thrones, where the pharaoh would sit first on the throne of northern Egypt and then on the throne of southern Egypt. The Sed festival was important, as it was seen as a renewal of the pharaoh's potency and a rejuvenation of their rulership. However, as time moved on, other New Year's festivals came to the fore, and gifts became a big part of them. In the tomb of Januna, the pharaoh was displayed as receiving gifts at the start of the civil new year, many of which would have been given to officials as marks of royal favour. During both the Wepet Renpet and the Nehebkau festival, tombs were lit in the Theban necropolis, and the festivities were celebrated by banqueting in the tomb chamber, and by the bringing of offerings and bouquets by family members and friends. So, the Mesopotamian and ancient Egyptian New Year festivals are some of the oldest that we know about, and we can see beyond doubt that celebrating the New Year absolutely did not originate in the modern world or with Christianity. But the Mesopotamian and ancient Egyptian religions are not usually exactly what people mean when they talk about paganism. So, let's go forward now and look at the New Year festivals of pagan Europe. Here we could probably start and end with the 567 AD Council of Tours, whose Canon 22 states, "Some still hold fast the old error that they should honour the 1st of January. Others, on the festival of the Sea of Peter, present meat offerings to the dead and partake of meats which have been offered to demons. Others revere certain rocks or trees or fountains, etc. The priests should root out these heathenish superstitions." Here the Church Fathers are admonishing pagans for celebrating New Year's on January the 1st. It's not clear if the activities they discuss are being done by pagans on January the 1st, or on the festival of the Sea of Peter, which was on January the 18th. But we can learn more about pagan celebrations of New Year's from the Church's repeated attempts to stop them from doing so. From the Synod of Auxerre during the late 6th century, we find the following activity censured: New Year's Day mummers disguised as stags or young female animals. We get more detail about this custom from the historian Rudolf Arbsmann discussing the censuring of pagans by Caesarius Valls on New Year's Day. From the context in both sermons, it is quite clear that Caesarius refers to the somewhat disorderly New Year's Day masquerade at which the participants, wearing grotesque masks, roam for sport through the streets of towns and villages. Our sources throw no light whatsoever on the initial significance of the beast mimicry of the calends of January. Its origin was buried in oblivion, both for those who objected to it and for those who practiced it. However, a number of monumental remains from Roman Gaul leave no doubt that the stag figured prominently in the religious thought and ritual of the Celts. So Arnold and Nilsson have independently suggested that the custom of cavulum facere, dressing up as stags, which troubled Caesarius and other leading churchmen, was a survival of the cult which had once been paid to the old stag-horned Celtic god Cernunnos. About 30 representations of this god are known, some in stone, some in bronze. A partly damaged yet awe-inspiring head of the bearded god, crowned with antlers from which torques are suspended, was discovered on the remains of a Celtic altar beneath the Cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris in 1711. If I was feeling poetic, I'd say that the discovery of the statue of a pagan god under one of the most monumental landmarks of the Christian world is a fitting metaphor here. We may not know for certain the origins of the pagan New Year's stag masquerade, but it being a leftover of the cult of the pagan stag god Cernunnos isn't a bad guess. On another note, we do have a New Year's Day sermon from St. Augustine that is quite explicit about the New Year's activities of pagans at Hippo in Roman Africa. Are you going to take part in the New Year's Day celebrations? Are you, just like a pagan, going to play dice and become intoxicated? They see pleasure in dissolute songs. They run to the theatre. The demons are pleased with deceptive songs, with worthless shows, with the varied foulness of the theatre, with the frenzy of the circus, with the cruelty of the amphitheatre. Apart from the amphitheatre, Augustine could almost be talking to a modern audience. There's no beast mimicry here, just getting drunk, playing games and singing. Similarly in the East, St. John Chrysostom, discussing the New Year celebrations of the Antiochians, denounced the all-night devilish celebrations which are going on today, the tauntings, the invectives, the night-long dances, the ridiculous comedy. Again, it sounds more like what we used to. Later in the medieval period, and originating in medieval France, January the 1st saw the Feast of Fools. What did this involve? Well, it involved gambling, cross-dressing, and getting drunk. Stunningly, the church wasn't too keen on this, and in 1445 the Theological Faculty of Paris addressed a letter to the bishops of France condemning the feast. Priests and clerks may be seen wearing masks and monstrous visages at the hours of office. They dance in the choir dressed as women, pandas or minstrels. They sing wanton songs. They eat black pudding at the horn of the altar while the celebrant is saying mass. They play at dice there. They cense with stinking smoke from the soles of old shoes. They run and leap through the church without a blush at their own shame. Finally, they drive about the town and its theatres in shabby traps and carts, and rouse the laughter of their fellows and the bystanders in infamous performances with indecent gestures and verses, scurrilous and unchaste. The feast was first mentioned in the 11th century, and academics largely agree that it has pagan origins, sharing much in common with the pagan Roman New Year festival of Saturnalia, showing the continuity of pagan New Year celebrations well into the medieval period. The Feast of Fools died out in the 16th century, but the early modern era still marked the New Year with gift-giving and even New Year's resolutions. In 1621, Nehemiah Wallington wrote, "As I lay in my bed, I did purpose on New Year's Day to begin a new life." Writing 8 years later, Nehemiah seems to admit that he didn't quite manage to succeed in his resolution. Despite the 400 years of separation, I'm sure both us and him can sympathise with the 6th of January 1883 edition of the Worcester Journal, which points out that it unfortunately happens that New Year's Day resolutions are often of the most transitory kind, and they pass away almost with the mists of the morning on which they are formed. And so the celebration of New Year's in various forms is so old it is not even ancient, stretching back even further into the mists of prehistory. And although many traditions have been lost, few of us dress up in stag costumes now.
Billions keep New Year's without knowing why or where it originated. While some question its observance, of course, most see nothing wrong with such a celebration. Have you ever considered, much less investigated, why you believe and practice what you do?
New Year's is celebrated on January 1st. This day is said to be the start of a new year. But is this true according to Scripture? As mentioned in the video we produced about Christmas and the Bible, for many of us, our fondest childhood memories revolve around the holidays and New Year's traditions.
Happy New Year, everybody! What is he doing?
It is a time of fun, gathering, partying, and feasting. A time when we say, out with the old and in with the new, as we prepare New Year's resolutions and watch the fireworks display in the sky. Have you ever stopped to wonder about the origins of the New Year's celebration? Why is the start of a year placed in the middle of a dead winter? Why do we make lots of noise and celebrate with fireworks? Why do we make promises for the new year? Kiss at midnight? And why do we partake in feasts and parties? Many individuals who profess to be believers mistakenly presume that observing New Year's Eve is harmless. However, is the tradition of waiting out the old year genuinely derived from biblical sources? Does January 1st truly begin the commencement of a new year? We must also ask this question: who holds the authority to establish the starting point of a new year?
New Year's Eve historically in the North was known as Hogmanay. Originally, the new year for the Romans was March 1st. That was the new year, not January 1st. So all of you who are on January 1st, where was I on January 1st? You're waiting for the light to go up in Times Square.
The 2024 numerals arrived in Times Square yesterday. Check them out here. They stand at 7 feet tall. The numbers will officially light up the night sky when that iconic crystal ball drops at midnight on January 1st.
For thousands of years, civilizations all over the world have celebrated the start of a new year. Today, most New Year's celebrations begin on December 31st, known as New Year's Eve, and go on until the early hours of January 1st, which is New Year's Day.
And a Happy New Year to the world!
Happy New Year, everybody! What is he doing?
People celebrate and partake in ancient traditions that include attending parties, eating special New Year's foods, making pledges for the coming year, and lighting fireworks with family and friends.
Watch your face!
Must warn you, certain details in the information shared might be surprising or unsettling for some. Why? Because your memories and emotions are closely tied to your identity. If your devotion and identity lie with the Most High Yahuwah, and you seek to serve Him truthfully, we encourage you not to be afraid. Embracing the truth is a pathway to freedom.
Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Messiah.
Scriptures warned us to be on guard against deception and how not to put man-made traditions above our Heavenly Father and His commandments. Before moving forward, it's important to understand the new year according to Scripture. Let's examine Scripture to discover the true new year that marks the beginning of a month. In Exodus 12, verses 1 through 2, Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt,
This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you.
We must ask, what was that first month of the year that Yahuwah spoke about to Moses? If you read Exodus chapter 12, you will see that month was the month of the Passover. In Deuteronomy 16, verse 1, it reads,
Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to Yahuwah your Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahuwah, your Elohim brought you out of Egypt by night.
So the month of Abib was the first month of the year. According to the Brown Driver Briggs and Strong's Concordance, Abib is defined as fresh, young barley ears, barley, the month of ear forming, of the greening of the crop, the month of growing green Abib, and the month of the Exodus and Passover, which corresponds to March or April. The authentic biblical New Year remains in the month of Abib, coinciding with Passover in March or April, when new leaves sprout and extensive farming occurs. It was never situated in the midst of a frigid, lifeless winter, as evident in January. If you are a believer who loves our Heavenly Father and you desire to serve Him with a sincere heart, you must worship Him in spirit and truth.
But the hour is coming, and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such people to worship Him. The Most High is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and truth.
New Year's is among the most ancient and widespread pagan traditions. The practice of commemorating it has remained unchangeable for 4,000 years.
Hence, Janus, the two-faced Roman god come to life.
The tradition of celebrating New Year's originated in ancient Babylonia in Mesopotamia, signifying a pagan practice that dates back 2,000 years before the birth of our Hebrew Messiah, Yahushua, the one the world calls Jesus. What if I told you that following the first new moon after the vernal equinox, the Babylonians embarked on a journey of celebration known as Akitu? This wasn't just any celebration. It was a multi-day extravaganza that echoed with the harmony of rebirth and renewal. It was the Mesopotamian New Year. Akitu, also known as Akitum, is one of the oldest and most universally observed traditions. In Babylonia, the new year started with the new moon following the spring equinox, and in Assyria, it began with the new moon nearest the autumn equinox. During Akitu, the city came alive with rhythmic celebrations, statues of mighty gods, embodiments of cosmic forces, paraded through the streets. The air was filled with anticipation as the Babylonians engaged in rites that symbolized the gods' triumph over the chaotic forces that lurked in the shadows. Through these pagan rituals, the Babylonians believed something extraordinary. They thought that the world, in a symbolic dance with the divine, was cleansed and recreated by the gods themselves. It was a cosmic preparation for the new year, a spiritual prelude to the return of spring. Apart from marking the arrival of the new year, Akitu celebrated the legendary triumph of the Babylonian sky god Marduk over the malevolent sea goddess Tiamat.
The Mesopotamian sky god Marduk was said to have had 50 names honouring him for a number of deeds, not least for destroying his rival deity, Tiamat. The names of Marduk were featured in the Enuma Elish, an ancient Akkadian text that describes the creation of the universe. In many ways the text can be seen as a propaganda piece, establishing the master magician, fearsome warrior, and son of the Anunnaki god Enki as the preeminent deity of the Babylonian pantheon. Marduk seeks fame by performing a number of powerful deeds, notably by killing his rival, the primordial sea goddess Tiamat. Whilst she could potentially take many forms, the Enuma Elish describes Tiamat's monstrous appearance. She has a tail, a thigh, and lower parts which shake together, a belly, an udder, ribs, a neck, a head, a skull, eyes, nostrils, a mouth and lips. Her insides or entrails are mentioned, as are her heart, arteries and blood. She could effectively be seen as a dragon or sea monster or serpent, although this is disputed. She was also a vessel for other monsters, a veritable font of deep-seated fears and evil, birthing dragons, serpents, merfolk and scorpion men. Her death at the hands of Marduk can arguably be seen as a move away from earlier peaceful female-led matriarchal societies to more warlike patriarchal systems, although this too is hotly disputed. The theory suggests that Tiamat, along with other myths of dragons and other creatures, is a representation of these feminine-dominated castes who turned into monsters when they became violent. It is a trope that could have been carried forward into other belief systems, with the example of St. George slaying a dragon being an allegorical device to demonstrate the triumph of Christianity over a pagan cult. Tiamat was said to have poison instead of blood and represented the notion of Chaos Kampf, the struggle against chaos. And so Marduk can be seen, in a mythological and metaphysical sense, as establishing the primacy of order over chaos by an act of creative destruction. Demonstrating this, he was then said to have created the heavens and the earth out of Tiamat's corpse. An account of Marduk's victory read, "And the Lord stood upon Tiamat's hinder parts, and with his merciless club he smashed her skull, he cut through the channels of her blood, and he made the north wind bear it away into secret places." The notion of building the universe out of a vanquished foe's remains is seen in other mythology, such as the Norse concept of cosmology. According to Norse mythology, the worlds were created after Odin and his brothers killed the first giant, or Jotun Ymir. The resultant bleeding of Ymir was said to have caused a great flood that drowned most of the other giants. The world was then fashioned from Ymir's bodily remains. Christ's crucifixion, in Christian belief, could also be seen as an effective blood sacrifice to build a new world absolved of sin. Other Chaos Camp motifs include the Hittite story of the monstrous serpent Illuyanka's slaying at the hands of the sky god Tarhunt's, and the ancient Greek tale of Apollo vanquishing the Python, or again in Greek mythology, Zeus killing Typhon. These stories also allude to the sky deity being victorious against his earthbound enemies, with Typhon being the son of the goddess Gaia, the feminine personification of the earth, and Zeus having a name derived from the Proto-Indo-European sky father, or Deus Pater. The concept of the multiple names of Marduk was older than Babylonian beliefs and acted as a kind of genealogy for gods. Marduk is associated with the familiar mythical trope of wielding a divine weapon. In his case, this is called Imhulu. Similar examples from Western, specifically Indo-European paganism could be Zeus's lightning bolts or Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. And Thor was, according to Norse mythology, locked in an existential battle with the world serpent Jormungandr. Continuing the theme of serpentine conquest, Marduk's symbolic animal and servant, whom he once vanquished, is the dragon Mushusu. And Marduk, whose name was likely originally pronounced as Marutuk, was associated with the planet Jupiter, itself, like Zeus, named after a word derived from Deus Pater, the ancient sky father of reconstructed Proto-Indo-European mythology.
This celebration held not only mythological significance, but also played a crucial role in the political arena. It was during Akitu that a new king would ascend to the throne, or the existing ruler's divine authority would be reaffirmed, adding a layer of political significance to this ancient Mesopotamian festival. An intriguing facet of Akitu included a rather unique ritual that subjected the Babylonian king to a form of ceremonial humiliation. In this curious tradition, the king was presented before a statue of the deity Marduk. Here, he underwent the symbolic act of being stripped of his royal attire, receiving a slap, and having his ears gently tugged, all with the intention of eliciting tears. The shedding of royal tears was perceived as a significant indicator that Marduk was pleased, symbolically extending the king's authority and affirming his rule. Back in Babylon, Akitu wasn't your average one-day celebration. It was a 12-day extravaganza dedicated to honoring Marduk, their supreme deity. Think of it as the ultimate New Year's party, where they not only celebrated Marduk's greatness, but also gave a nod to the king, reminding everyone of his vital role in the kingdom. The New Year's festivities, originating in Babylon, made their way through Greece and eventually reached Rome. In Rome, it took on the name Saturnalia, dedicated to the god Saturn. Among the Romans, this celebration gained immense popularity, marked by revelry, drinking bouts, orgies, and disturbingly culminating in human sacrifice.
Did you forget your history, Jimmy? Even in ancient times, the archdemon Moloch was celebrated by tossing infants into flaming bonfires, accompanied, of course, by the beating of drums to drown out the screaming. Later on, they erected a giant bronze statue with outstretched arms, kindling fires beneath the palms. And when they'd toss a little infant into those open palms, they'd flinch at the red-hot metal, but then they'd willingly roll themselves off into the flame.
The timing of Saturnalia shifted during the Roman era, commencing in mid-December and extending until January 1st. Notably, December 25th, considered by Romans as the day when the sun was at its lowest point, was situated within this festival. Have you ever wondered, how did the months of the year come by their names? These names consist of a blend of deities, rulers, goddesses, and numerical designations. In the present day, we adhere to the Gregorian calendar, which traces its roots back to the ancient Roman calendar attributed to Romulus. Romulus, serving as the inaugural king of Rome around 753 BC, is credited with its invention. The Roman calendar, characterized by its intricate lunar structure, comprised 12 months, mirroring our contemporary calendar. However, only 10 of these months held formal names. Essentially, during what we perceive as winter, considered a dormant period with minimal government and military activity, only the months from March to December were assigned names. These were the months attributed to pagan gods.
The reality is, for the Romans, March 1st was the beginning of the year. And when you look at the number 7 in Latin, you find septem. So September was the 7th month, October, November, December. And so you find that the Latin words for these last months, October, November, December, 8, 9, and 10. So these weren't the last months of the year. It was 8, 9, and 10.
March, the Marches, received its name from Mars, the god of war, as it marked the resumption of active military campaigns during this month. May, Maius, and June, Junius, found their names associated with the goddesses Maia and Juno, respectively. April, Aprilis, is believed to derive from the Latin word apero, meaning to open, symbolizing the blossoming buds of spring. The remaining months were designated numerically, with their original Latin names indicating the 5th, Quintilis, 6th, Sextilis, 7th, September, 8th, October, 9th, November, and 10th, December positions. Eventually, January, Januarius, and February, Februarius, were introduced to conclude the year, providing proper names for all 12 months. Upon assuming the role of Pontifex Maximus, Julius Caesar initiated a transformation of the Roman calendar, aligning its structure with Earth's orbit around the sun. This resulted in the establishment of a solar calendar, resembling the one in use today.
Well, I predict that the world will end at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve.
Well, they couldn't get to you until after the New Year. Well, just don't go in there.
The season of evil begins with the birth of the new year.
Notably, January and February were relocated to the beginning of the year, and leap years were incorporated to maintain synchronization between the calendar year and the solar year. The winter months, namely January and February, retained their essence as a period for introspection, tranquility, fresh starts, and purification. Following Julius Caesar's demise, the month Quintilis underwent a name change to July in tribute to him in 44 BC. Subsequently, in 8 BC, Sextilis was renamed August in honor of the Roman Emperor Augustus. Naturally, these alterations and rearrangements resulted in a misalignment between the names of certain months and their sequential order in the calendar, exemplified by September to December. Attempts were made by subsequent emperors to bestow their names upon various months, but these modifications failed to endure beyond their reigns. In 1582, Pope Gregory XIII implemented a series of modifications to address inaccuracies and refine the Julian calendar. Primarily, the Julian calendar had overestimated the duration of Earth's orbit around the Sun. The Gregorian calendar addressed this by reducing the length of the calendar year from 365.25 days to 365.25 days. This adjustment facilitated more precise corrections through the inclusion of leap years, ensuring that the dates of equinoxes, solstices, and consequently the Easter date realigned with their observed counterparts. Before we move forward, it's critical to understand why Yahuwah divorced Israel. Their hearts were always divided with him and the ways of the heathens. That is part of the reason he always warned them time and time again to worship only him and let go of idolatry and adultery.
And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah thy Most High, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
This commandment shows our Father's character and how he hates when his children put anything or anyone before him. So much so that he created a law and commandments warning against it time and time again.
Thus saith Yahuwah, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
The term Gentiles, referring to non-Israelite nations, was used to denote heathens, a term that is also interchangeable with pagans. This interchangeability is evident in various Bible translations.
And so what actually happened was, when they imposed the new year on January, it is for the ancient god, or their so-called god called Janus, the two-faced god, two faces, who shows you one face and behind it is another face.
Hello. Damn. Jesus. I thought you was dead.
Half. Who picked up Rachel words?
Must have been Maroney's man.
Shut up! Are you telling me that you're gonna protect the other traitor in Gordon's unit?
I don't know. He never told me. Listen, Den, I swear to God, I didn't know what they were gonna do to you.
That's funny. Because I don't know what's gonna happen to you either.
The master hypocrite. And so this is what is going on at this occasion. And we find now that on January 1st, right on that evening, December 31st, when it changes, you find people are usually drinking. They're involved in some sexual activity at that time.
Now, let's focus on the month itself, January, named after the ancient Roman god Janus. Imagine Janus, a deity with two faces, one looking forward into the future, the other looking at the past. In the realm of ancient myths, Janus was the god of beginnings and endings, a guardian of doors, gates, and transitions. How did this mysterious god influence the very essence of the month that bears his name and the traditions of today? Follow us as we unravel the mystical threads that connect Janus to the tapestry of time. As the final breaths of the old year linger, a global celebration begins to unfold on the eve of December 31st, New Year's Eve. Picture the world aglow with anticipation, a shared heartbeat echoing through different time zones. But what makes this night so special? As the clock inches towards midnight, the world sits down to a banquet of New Year's Eve delights. It's not just about satisfying hunger. It's a collective ritual, a feast laden with symbolic significance. And across Spanish-speaking lands, the magic lies in 12 grapes. Bolting them down right before the clock strikes 12 is a tradition. Each grape a silent wish for the months ahead, a flavorful countdown that transcends borders. Zoom in on the dinner tables around the globe, and you'll discover a common theme: legumes. These humble ingredients, believed to bear a resemblance to coins, become ambassadors of financial prosperity. Picture lentils in Italy, black-eyed peas in the southern United States. Each spoonful, a taste of hope for a wealthier future, a belief shared across cultures. Travel the world on this culinary journey where pigs become symbols of progress and prosperity. On New Year's Eve, tables in Cuba, Austria, Hungary, Portugal, and beyond, pork takes the spotlight. Each slice tells a story of strides we wish to make in the coming year, a succulent metaphor for collective aspirations. Desserts take the stage with treats mirroring the cyclical nature of time. ring-shaped cakes and pastries, gracing tables in the Netherlands, Mexico, Greece, and beyond, become edible symbols of the year completing its circle. Each sweet bite is a reminder of the perpetual dance of time. As the clock approaches the final seconds of the year, imagine the sweet finale in Sweden and Norway. Rice pudding, hiding a secret almond, becomes the dessert of choice. Whoever discovers the almond is destined for 12 months of good fortune. As the curtain falls on the final night of the year, a global celebration unfolds, painting the skies with bursts of color and filling the air with melody. Around the world, common New Year customs involve observing fireworks and singing songs to usher in the upcoming year, with the enduring popularity of Auld Lang Syne in many English-speaking nations. The tradition of crafting resolutions for the new year originated among the ancient Babylonians. Let's journey back to ancient Babylon, where the practice of making resolutions took root. Imagine a time when promises were made, not just for making commitments as a means of personal growth, but to appease the gods and ensure a favorable start to the year. Babylonians pledged to settle debts and return borrowed farm equipment, a ritual that has transcended millennia, evolving into the modern New Year's resolutions we make today. Shift the scene to the heart of the United States, where an iconic tradition takes center stage, the dropping of a giant ball in New York City's Times Square. The year is 1907, and since then, this spectacle has captivated millions worldwide. The ball, once a 700-pound iron and wood orb, has transformed into a dazzling sphere, 12 feet in diameter, weighing a whopping 12,000 pounds. Beyond Times Square, various towns and cities across America have adopted their own versions of the tradition, organizing public drops featuring diverse items ranging from pickles in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, to possums in Tallapoosa, Georgia, all at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve. The New Year's traditions today all revolve around false gods and ancient pagan worship. It's important that we don't dismiss the significance of all the evidence and facts provided by saying it doesn't matter. To the Most High, our Creator, it does matter whether we, who profess to believe in Him, embrace the customs of the heathen. As we conclude, let's take a moment to reflect on the insights shared. The New Year's traditions we observe today often trace their origins to practices linked with false gods and ancient pagan worship. Amidst the festivities, it becomes crucial not to dismiss the significance of the evidence and facts presented, relegating them with a casual, "it doesn't matter." To the Most High, our Creator, it does matter whether we, as believers, embrace customs rooted in the practices of the heathen.
And today I want to get into this New Year's, okay, because a lot of people don't know that they're worshiping a satanic deity, Janus, man, you know, when they partake in these celebrations. And also, I want to talk about all the wildfires that went on in Colorado after I get done talking about this, so, you know, bear with me. So let's read this. It says, civilizations around the world have been celebrating the start of each New Year for at least 4 millennia. Today, most New Year's festivals begin on December 31st, New Year's Eve, the last day of the grand Gregorian calendar and continue into the early hours of January 1st, New Year's Day. Common traditions include attending parties, eating special New Year's food, making resolutions for the new year, and watching firework displays. Okay, so this all goes back to Babylon and Rome. Okay, so let's see what gods they worship. It says the earliest record festivals in honor of a New Year's arrival date back some 4,000 years to ancient Babylon. For the Babylonians, the first new moon following the vernal equinox, the day in late March, with a equal amount of sunlight and darkness, heralded the start of the new year. They marked the occasion with a massive religious festival called Akaku, derived from the Sumerian word for barley, which was cut in the spring. That involved a different ritual on each of its 11 days. In addition to the new year, Ataku celebrated the mythical victory of the Babylon sky god Marduk. And it talks about Baal, okay, because the full name is Baal Marduk, okay, and it talks about this basically demon, this deity that these people worshipped in Babylon back in the day. Okay, it says Jeremiah 50:2. Declare ye among the nations and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken. Baal is confounded. Marduk is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces. This is Jeremiah 51:44. And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto them. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. You know, America in the scriptures is called Mystery Babylon the Great. Mystery Babylon, because they basically revamped all the gods that were worshipped back in the days and basically put a new face on them. Okay? From Baal to Janus. From Janus to New Year's Eve, and whatever, you know, they worshiping these fucking deities, man. That's why they got these celebrities. They gonna have these celebrities on these shows today. You know what I'm saying? Because they worship these deities. Okay. And before I move on, I want to get this word for Baal in Jeremiah 50, and I'm only gonna read a little bit of this. Okay. Basically Baal, okay. What's Baphomet today, basically. It says proper name masculine, a chief Babylonian deity. Okay. Lord Baal regarded as older form, whatever, Marduk, tutelary god of Babylon. So, hey man, you know, this is what you people are worshiping, man, and y'all don't even know it. Okay, so in Babylon, they celebrated New Year's. Okay, they're worshiping the sky god Marduk over the evil sea goddess Tiamat, and served an important political purpose. It was during the time that the new king was crowned, or that the current ruler's divine mandate was symbolically renewed. The early Roman calendar consisted of 10 days, 10 months, and 304 days, which each new year beginning at the vernal equinox. According to tradition, it was created by Romulus, the founder of Rome, in the 8th century BC. A later king, Numa Palamas, is credited with adding the months of Januarius and Februarius over the centuries. The calendar fell out of sync with the sun. Okay, and that's how you know these are devils, because you know, Yahweh Shemashah basically told us to count the days by the moon. Okay. And Sabbaths by the moon. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, they want to do everything backwards. So they did everything, you know, they worship the sun. You know, the Israelites never worshiped the moon. Yahweh Shemashah just set it up for times and seasons. You see what I'm saying? But they actually said, fuck that. We're going to worship the sun. You know, and it is what it is. It says, and in 46 BC, the Emperor Julius Caesar decided to solve the problem by consulting with the most prominent astronomers and mathematics of his time, he introduced the Julian calendar, which closely resembles the more modern Gregorian calendar that most countries around the world use today. Okay, basically based off the sun. It says, as part of his reform, Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year, partly to honor the Merv's namesake Janus, the Roman god of beginnings. See, Janus. Okay. The Roman god of beginnings with two faces, allowing him to look back in the past and forward into the future. That's why you make a resolution, because you want to forget the past. Yeah, my New Year's revolution. My New Year's resolution is, okay, you're worshiping a god, this two-faced deity, man. It says Romans celebrated by offering sacrifices to Janus, exchanging gifts with one another, decorating their homes with laurel branches, and attending parties. And that's what people going to do today. Okay, they're going to eat deviled eggs and blah, blah, blah. It says in medieval Europe, Christian leaders temporarily replaced January 1st as the first of the year with days carrying more religious significance, such as December 21st, the anniversary of Jesus, which is not true. I did a video on that. It's basically they celebrate Saturnalia and some other god. Okay, and March 25th, the feast of Annunciation, Pope Gregory reestablished January 1st as New Year's Day in 1582. So I don't need to read no more of that, man. So let's read some scriptures. This is Daniel 7:25. It says that he shall change, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of time. Okay, because this devil was given great authority, and you can read that in Revelation 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his heads 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Okay. It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. It says, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave his power and his seat with great authority. And I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death. Okay, this is talking about Rome, because Rome fell, right? But it says, and his deadly wound was healed. This is talking about America coming back into power with NATO and the EU. Okay. And all the world wandered after the beast. See, all the world has wandered after the teachings of these people. That's why it says in Daniel 7 that they, you know, they changed the times and the laws. See how much Messiah got a way that he wants to do things. They do it backwards. Okay, he's supposed to tell the times and the Sabbaths by the moon. Okay, because the moon, when you look at it, man, every day it changes from basically a new moon, which is basically dark, a waning crescent, got that little sliver. The last quarter is half. Waning crescent is a quarter on the other side. Of full moon is fully blasted, so you can tell the times because it's like a clock, man. You know what I'm saying? But the devil, you know, he turned everything upside down. You know, you can get that scripture. Upside down. You know, because they hate the Most High, man. So they're not going to listen to what he says. This is Isaiah 29:16. Surely your turning the things upside down shall be esteemed as a potter's clay. See how much Messiah is going to destroy them. For what shall the work of him say that made it? He made not. Or shall the thing frame of him that framed it? He had no understanding. So, you know, they turned everything upside down. But a lot of people today, you know, are going to go celebrate this deity. It's basically a demon, Janus, a two-faced god. Okay, two-faced demon actually. Okay, and a lot of people's going to do New Year's resolutions and all this, and they're going to be worshiping this deity, man. You know what I'm saying? And hey, it is what it is. So let's see. Let's get some scriptures. This is Exodus 20:3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow themselves to them. And that's what people do when they celebrate these deities. They bow to them basically, because they're gonna go eat, they're gonna go drink. Festivals, that's basically giving that demon power. For serve them, for Yahweh Shemashah power, am a jealous God, visit iniquity of the fathers upon the children, upon the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So, Yahweh Shemashah gave a decree, basically don't worship no other gods. And a lot of people today is going to go worship this god Janus. Okay. This is Isaiah 5. Because I told you, like it says in Revelations 13, these people was given great authority. So everything that they worship has been trickled down to the people. But you got to come out of that, man. It's high time to awake out of sleep. We got the internet now. We know what the hell we doing. You ain't doing nothing stupidly anymore in ignorance. Okay, which is no excuse anyway. But this is Isaiah 5:20. It says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, and that put darkness for light and light for darkness, and that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Because people will fight tooth and nail to tell you that they're not worshiping the God and they're just getting together with some friends and having fun and bliggity bliggity. Demonic people. But what do Yahweh Shemashah tell you to do? This is Exodus 23:2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. So if people doing evil, you ain't supposed to be doing it. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Okay. Let's go to Amos real quick. 5. It says, I hate and I despise your feast days, and I will not smell of your solemn assemblies. Therefore you offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, and I will not accept them, neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy vows. But let judgment rain down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. See, you saw what happened in Colorado with that wildfire. Yahweh Shemashah, they was going to go celebrate it up, but Yahweh Shemashah basically, destroyed everything they had. So let's talk about that now. It says, so many memories, over 5,000 homes, fear destroyed by fire. And Yahweh Shemashah is the one that did this, okay? Just go look up what happened in Colorado. I'm going to play a couple videos, and then I'm going to get straight to the scriptures. And then I'm going to get out of here. So let's see. See what I want to play first. Let's play this. Basically, Yahweh Shemashah destroying everything, man. Look at this. Okay, let's see. I wanted to get where this guy was screaming. Alright, here goes this. Listen to this guy, man. Yahweh Shemashah gave him a love tap.
Oh my god. Holy shit. This is in Superior, guys, right now, in Boulder. I can't see shit. I can't see shit. Turn around. We're gonna get crashed on, guys. God help us right now. God help us. Holy fuck! Holy fuck! Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy fuck! Did you guys just see that? Holy fuck!
And you see how this dude said, God help me, God help us, and then Yahweh Shah tried to kill his ass. Cause that's not his name, man. Probably pissed him off when you said that. You probably pissed the angel off when you said that, and he was trying to wreck your shit. Gave you a love tap. This is Amos 3:6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city, and Yahweh Shah have not done it? Because he's the one that controls, forest fires and everything, man. You can get that in Isaiah 28:2. It says, Behold, the Lord have a mighty and strong one, which has a tempest of hell and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing shall cast down to the earth without hand. Okay, and then we go to the next scripture, Isaiah 29:6. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. Okay, so 500 people's houses get destroyed. Yahweh Shah said, let judgment rain down as waters. Okay, let judgment rain down as waters. And who knows what those people was going to do? Who knows what they people, because Colorado's something always happening over there, school shootings, and it ain't no telling. They probably got some pedophile secret caught over there or something. This is Psalms 83:15. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid of thy storm. Okay. It says, as the fire burneth for wood, and as the flames setteth the mountains on fire. Oh my God, make them like a wheel as the stubble before the wind. Okay, because there was a lot of winds. I read that backwards just now, but it is what it is. But basically the winds was pushing that fire all over Colorado, man. You know what I'm saying? It was a scary sight to see. Let me get another scripture. Last scripture, then I'm gonna get out of here. This is 2 Ezra 5:8. There shall be confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and the monstrous woman shall bring forth monsters, meaning these feminists are bringing forth these fucking delinquents.
Adeus, ano velho, feliz ano novo, que tudo se realiza no ano que vai nascer. Muito dinheiro no bolso, saúde pra dar e vender. Adeus, ano velho, feliz ano novo, que tudo se realiza no ano que vai nascer. Muito dinheiro no bolso, saúde pra dar e vender.